Whether you are on an adventure or at the downtown cafe, your answers are no more than a sniff away. Dog Training 360's purpose is simple: to teach you why dogs do what they do, as well as the action steps you need to take to have better communication, connection, consistency, and conceivability with your dog. We are going to talk about some behavior cases here in the next couple series because I feel like it's such a prominent thing, not even right now, but it's just a thing. And I've had several experiences working with veterinarians in the last couple weeks and working with people that have gotten dogs from rescues and have adopted them. So I think it's important to talk about some behaviors. And one thing that's been on the forefront of a lot of my consultations have been aggressive dogs. Mm-hmm. And, one started with the dog had been turned over to a rescue for 2 bites. Mm-hmm. And then adopted out and then returned because of barking, which I question that. It was probably aggressive barking. Mm-hmm. And then got readopted out with the people that I did the consultation with, and with them, and the reason why they had called, and they had kind of called and worked with several different trainers in the valley, and but the trigger for the call was that she had taken the dog for a walk, just like she walks her other dog. Mm-hmm. And they live in kind of a secluded little lane that everybody walks their dogs off leash on that little lane. Mm-hmm. And the dogs, it's really kind of a curious little neighborhood, but the neighbor had just stepped out of his yard, was bringing something out, and that dog that they had just rescued charged him and latched on. And the only way that he could get him off was to dump water on him.
Wow.
And so I'm guessing the bites have not been a snap and release. It's a herding dog-ish thing. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was a veterinarian had called me and said, can you try and help these people? And it was a really, really, really aggressive Akita. And so the background part of it was they had gone and worked with many other trainers in the sense of consultations or, mm-hmm. One sessions here mm-hmm. and there. And this little herding dog, this other trainer said, I can have this fixed in 3 hours. And he threw a choke chain on the dog, and that's what he advised them to do. And he had the dog so terrified and drooling and just cowering.
Wow.
That intense. They literally just paid him to get him out of their house.
Wow.
And then the other one with the Akita, they had with their first Akita, they had taken the dog and had training done. And mm-hmm. so, they found this trainer and the trainer says, we have to break this dog to rebuild it back up. And I guess there was a lot of hanging up and pretty severe stuff. Mm-hmm. And obviously it just made the dog
more aggressive,
more angry about people, because people just suck when they do that. And so in both cases, to me, it's important to talk about the liability of owning an aggressive dog.
Sure.
It's not something that I take lightly. It's not something that, I think that anybody should take lightly. And we've got a handful mm-hmm. of dogs that we take in that are, that we're working on, helping them be successful. Mm-hmm. But I think the one thing that people don't understand, and that when I tell people the liability that they carry, mm-hmm. It's a little shocking. Mm-hmm. And then it's a little I don't know if I want to take this on. Mm-hmm. That if it is against the law to own an aggressive animal, mm-hmm. and your homeowner's insurance is the one that gets hit, mm-hmm. and then you could lose everything that you have, mm-hmm. and it is a felony mm-hmm. to own an aggressive animal in the state of Utah. Mm-hmm. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that those dogs don't fail, mm-hmm. and that other people are safe.
Right.
And that's sometimes pretty difficult in this day and age. With the how liberal we are with our dogs of being out and about in public.
Right. Well, and how other people treat dogs.
Yeah.
You know, like back in the day, people have a sign on their fence on their door, beware of dog.
Yeah.
And you would just leave that house alone, right?
Right.
But people will put their hands over the fence and pet the dog or whatever. I live on a corner.
Yeah.
And people are always petting my dogs and talking to my dogs and, you know, like they do things I would never do.
Right.
With other people's dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
People do to my dogs because I live on the corner and they can see my dog and pet my dog through the fence.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So I think we have other people's expectations of what they're allowed to do with your dog is much more open. Yeah. Like when it probably shouldn't be. Yeah. But we're dealing with that as well.
Right. Right. For sure. And in that same context, I have another dog that I'm integrating into a home, and he's got some funny little nuances. He's social for the most part with people, and he's social for the most part with dogs, but not really. There's some stuff happening. And so we were up at their house and they had a bunch of people over and they brought him out. And, you know, at first I said, you know, why are we getting him out with everybody here? And, you know, she kind of wanted to show him off a little bit. And one lady literally like sat down on the ground and got in his face, and he started to pucker. Ooh. And everything started to wrinkle, and he looked away and he licked. And I said, you should probably stand up because he's not comfortable with you being in that position right there. And she wasn't even holding him. She wasn't even touching him at that point. She just like literally sat down and got in his face. Like, I'm going to get on your level and I'm going to look at you. And he was not comfortable with that at all. And so, people just don't even think.
No, they
There's
put
not
their,
even a thought
their
process.
face right in your dog's face.
Yeah.
So dangerous.
Yeah. Yep. And then I had another funny situation with, as we talk about outside people, a little girl was trying to greet Patsy. And, you know, Patsy's so squishy. But there was something about this little girl that
it's kind of scary.
It was very scary for her. And I said, you know, don't put your hand out there and pretend like you're like being submissive, and don't stick your hand out for them to smell your hand. Just stand there and let the dog come up to you. And she looked so perplexed at her mom, like, well, that's what we're taught, is to stick our hand out and let him. And that's not a good thing to do, because you're telling the dog that you're not sure. And do you like me? And that's not good for a dog.
No. And it creates this expectation that you're like gonna do something.
Yeah.
You're presenting this with the intention of doing something else. Yeah. Is how the dog reads it. And so they're really wary about what's going to happen next. Are you going to grab me? Are you going to chase me? Are you going to, you know, it's not like natural.
No, it's not a friendly gesture at
like
all.
It's creepy to dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to do something. And you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, that's how the dog sees it. They don't see it as, oh, this friendly person is coming. Right. The most friendly thing to the dog is just be totally neutral. Yeah. Be totally neutral. Yep. Ignore the dog. Don't have any feelings about it.
Yeah. And they will come up and go, hey, do you want to be my friend?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or they'll go, okay, cool. I'm not going to come up to you and you're not going to come up to me.
Yep. And we just be fine with it.
Yeah. Totally. So it's, you know, we take that side of things, and then we take, you know, these people that are really pushing through with these people aggressive dogs. And they're trying to do the right thing, and they're trying to be successful, and they're trying to help their dog. And then people do weird things.
Yeah, because people just aren't neutral.
Yeah. And so it becomes such a big liability to take
really
on
hard. Yeah.
because you can't control the outside environment. So then we put a muzzle on the dogs, which is totally fine. I'm not against it. Let's keep everybody safe. But then people even get more weird about it. Instead of just going, oh, it's a dog with muzzle on, they get, oh, a dog. Yeah. Do you want me to be friends with it? Will it help if I say hi? And you're like,
just be normal.
How about you just don't worry about it?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So it is a liability to have it because of the outside influences, and also we need to get our dogs out and get them and keep them social.
You have a lot of emotions about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People feel guilty that they're not taking their dog out for a walk.
Yeah.
If the dog doesn't want to go, then don't go. It's totally fine.
Right.
But then, like, also with, like, say, having your dog wear a muzzle.
Yeah.
People, like, shame you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're mistreating this dog and it shouldn't be wearing a muzzle. And, and so they put all these negative opinions on you. And so then you still feel like you're doing the wrong thing.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of negative emotions that people deal with that don't really have to do with the dog. It has to do with other people's opinions about what you should be doing with your dog.
Exactly.
And that's really hard to deal with too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, big time. Big time. So as we talk about that, you know, I don't think that it's, you know, I don't think it's wrong to keep a dog that's people aggressive. I think it's wrong if you don't get training. And I think it's wrong if you don't manage it correctly.
Right.
Because it's not fair to the dog. I also think that it's wrong that, you know, the rescues will put that liability onto people when they know.
Yeah, they know the dog has
biters.
Been returned several times for biting.
Yeah.
And they don't tell the people, or they tell a watered down story about why they got the dog.
Right.
And then some people... Not all dogs that come for the shelter are super, super aggressive.
No.
It's pretty
rare.
Most
of them aren't.
You know, it's pretty rare.
Yep.
But the ones that come usually are super extremely aggressive, right?
Yep.
So then you have an extremely aggressive dog in a house, say in a neighborhood that has lots of kids. The family might have lots of kids.
Yeah.
And then they go back to the shelter and say, we did not know this dog was extremely aggressive. It cannot live in our house. And then the shelter's like, well, you made a responsibility.
Yeah. And then so they're shamed there.
Yeah. But they didn't tell them all the facts to go into it.
Yep. Yep. So I you know, I'm always... You know, I always want to support people that make the decision to keep them and work through it and take it on. I'm also supportive of people that choose to euthanize the dogs, because if they're adopting them out
without telling people information,
they're going to adopt them out again.
Yep. Over and over. Yeah. Some people, by the time we get to the dogs, some of them have been returned and gone out like over 5 times.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And nobody knows the story. Nobody will be honest. Nobody will be.
They don't want to tell.
Or we just feel so guilty that we don't. We just like, oh, it's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
Don't tell them that they bite because they might euthanize them.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many emotions involved in, you know, what we call aggression.
Sure.
When, you know, that word is way overused, and most of the time it's such a fear-based, and there's other reasons why that it's doing what it's doing.
True human emotion.
Yeah. And so I think it's important for everybody to know that you have my permission, you have Shannon's permission to make the decision that is best for you, and there is no shame involved, and you should be proud. Whether it's proud that your dog has a muzzle on because you're being a responsible dog owner, or proud that you made the decision to euthanize the dog because it is such a liability and that you don't want to pass it on to somebody else, or proud that you sent it back and put the liability back on the shelter or the rescue or whatever that is. I mean, you have to just be okay with your decision, but you have to understand that the decision that you're making, be okay with it. If you're not okay with it, it's not the right decision, and make another one. Most people will not, if they're so transparent about rehoming the dog, most of the time they won't get rehomed, because people are like, oh, that's the truth.
Do that. Yeah.
We can't, you know, handle that, because we're, especially in places that are more outdoorsy, that are less, you know, in a concrete world, I guess, if you will, like, you know, it was pretty rare that when I was in Boston that you saw dogs off leash, except for in designated areas, but everybody was on leash. When I was in New York, it's a very leashed environment. And maybe that's a better environment for them to be in. But when you're in, you know, very outdoorsy, adventurous places, that you have to really think about what that, you know, the impact that it's going to have.
Well, and I think you have to think about your lifestyle too. I mean, I think there might be single people that live in an apartment that would really like think that they could help a dog and it could have a good life and they could manage it because they live alone in a controlled environment and maybe that would be the right fit for them and that would work out great and the dog would be happy and that dog shouldn't go in a neighborhood where it's a giant cul-de-sac where everyone's just outside all the time and nobody's on leash and there's thousands of children and parties, block parties and all of that kind of stuff. Right. You know, so if shelters were upfront about that, you know, they could place the dogs more responsibly in ways that they wouldn't get sent home. You know, because really it's all totally about managing. Like if you're working through it, you are managing the dog. Right. You're managing who they come in contact with, how they come in contact, where they come in contact, and it's all just management. And if you're a mom that has a lot of kids that's managing a lot of things, you cannot realistically devote the time to manage a dog on that level. Right. Where maybe somebody that it lives in a cabin in there and there it's 40 miles to the next house. Yeah.
Might be good.
You know? Yeah. So it's really placement is an issue with these.
For sure. For sure. And I think that also, you know, there may be some requirement behind this dog is adoptable only with the support of a trainer. So if you choose to adopt it, you need to come in with a trainer and have a training plan ready and in place. And I don't think that's unrealistic.
No, because you want the dog to be successful. We want dogs to be successful. Yeah. That's why we do this job. Right. And why we try to help people make the right decision for them. Yep. Because if they make the wrong decision for them, the dog won't be successful.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And anything that is to that end to help the dog be successful, we're all for it. Yeah. Like no matter what that is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think that's just, you know, it's out there, it's a real thing, and be okay with your decision. And there's a lot of decisions to be made. And anybody out there that sees somebody with a muzzled dog, be respectful.
Be respectful of all dogs. Yeah. Dogs might be aggressive and not have a muzzle. Right. Just be a neutral person in the world. Yeah. And don't run up to people screaming, I love your dog, and stick your face in their face. Right. Yeah. Treat dogs like you would treat stranger humans.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And you don't know the story behind any of it. You know, whether a dog has a shock collar on, whether a dog has a head collar on. Yeah,
you don't need to judge them because you don't know what's going on.
Right, exactly. So I think it's important to, you know, yes, be neutral. If you're the one that has the dog, just be confident and be okay with what you have because you've made a choice. Mm-hmm. And those that don't have it, don't judge because you don't know what that person's going through, or you don't even know why the dog has a muzzle on. Mm-hmm. So it may be for your safety or other dog safety. So it's really important to be really a neutral person in it, and it's not about feeling sorry. It's not about placing blame. It's just nothing. It's just a dog with a muzzle on, or, you know, somebody made a choice to euthanize a dog, that's okay.
And if people say, you know, it's not okay to pet my dog,
respect it.
Yes. Yeah. And don't give them a crusty face.
Right.
And scoff at them.
Yeah. Right.
Because they maybe just saved you from getting bitten.
Right. Like, yeah. You know? And their dog from being euthanized.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So behavior cases are strange, and there's a lot of emotion to it, and I feel like this is one that's one of the hardest to live in.
Because you continually feel emotions about it.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yep. And you're always hypersensitive about everything that's going on in the environment. So just be aware, and be aware if you're adopting, you know, what that, you know, try and ask as many questions as you possibly can. And maybe we'll go into another podcast at another time about, you know, how do you know? How do you know? What questions do you ask? And to get as much information, or maybe what some of these keywords are, like needs to be in a home without kids. Yeah. So maybe we'll do that on one of the podcasts, is talking about, you know, even from a puppy standpoint and getting a dog from a breeder, you know, what questions do you really ask and should you ask when you're in the search for a dog?